Awesome. This is good. So I'll kick us off. My name's Colin Crotty. I'm the CEO of a company called Hyperquake. We're an agency. We've been around since 1986. This October, I'm entering my 18th year. And I would thank you. It's been a long time, and I think up until the last couple weeks, I thought I had seen and learned everything, but American politics have taught me I don't know anything yet. So learning is sort of where we sit in the ecosystem of agencies. We're always learning and trying to progress. And so when you've been doing it since 1986, most of the work since then has been a lot of content development. A lot of the work we've done has been disposable. It doesn't live on beyond us. And so part of our process, and Eric's going to do most of the talking with Marshall, was how do we, around 2016, we said to ourselves, how do we make stories more meaningful? How do we go beyond what you see on shelf and beyond what you see online? And we started a function called storybuilding. So that's what we're going to talk about today, and it's the physical manifestation of leaders' vision in space, and that's really important. And a lot of the things in the previous conversation, I really want to open it up to questions because there's a lot of how do you monitor ROI, and for us, we believe in market share, but not market share in the traditional sense when you're trying to push product, but market share in how you drive equity inside your walls. We love working with visionary leaders, but their vision only gets them so far. So how do we work with the people that serve that vision and drive that forward every single day? So that's what our conversation's about today. So thanks for the time.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Marshall Thompson here. I'm responsible for revenue at Hyperquake. Weird story for me, since dropping out of college at 18, deciding I wanted to mountain bike more than anything else. I somehow found my way into this world of brands and producing branded spaces and places, and it's really the only thing I've ever wanted to do for money. So looking forward to talking a little bit about what we're up to and how we see the world. Eric, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name's Eric Hurt, and I'm the director of immersive design at Microsoft. I actually sit in the commercial enterprise sales business, so I don't sit in brand and marketing. And I run 40-plus centers, or my team runs 40-plus centers around the globe, where we actually bring cloud infrastructure and generative AI to life for enterprise customers to kind of touch, see, look, feel the technology. And we're about to embark with Hyperquake on our largest project yet, which we'll get into and discuss.
Do you have any influence over CrowdStrike?
Oh, yeah. I also
are we going to get a blue screen?
Yeah, I do need to apologize on behalf of Windows servers all over the globe for any travel woes you all had. So.
Eric was in the IT closet feverishly working away
unplugging
yesterday.
and plugging things in.
Yeah, is it working now?
Like, right?
When it dropped, I texted Marshall just, oh shit.
Oh shit. But we're glad to be back up and running, and super glad to be here at Sundance. This is such an incredible place. I feel so lucky to have been able to spend time here already, but the opportunity to come back for a professional function is such a privilege. Super special place. Both Colin and I, we spend a lot of our winters here. If you haven't been to northern Utah before and you're a winter sports enthusiast, I encourage you to go to Breckenridge, Colorado next year. But yeah, we're super stoked. If this is your first time, get ready. It's quite the opportunity. Colin, I don't think we need to talk much about Hyperquake, but
No.
Anything you want to say?
They don't care. They want to hear from Eric.
You don't care. So moving on, Eric, talk to us a little bit about customer engagement, the program that you represent at Microsoft. I have a feeling that most of the folks in this audience have no idea what a experience center or executive briefing center or innovation center is. Talk to us a little bit about what that actually means, Microsoft.
Yeah, so like I said earlier, we run 40 centers around the globe, and you'll see our map. And many of you who come from the marketing world, we look at it in the sales funnel world at, how are we meeting the customers where they're at? How are we taking them through the journey of our partnership with Microsoft, how are we building our brand trust and then showcasing our innovation. And we have multiple centers that actually do various functions. And we work with like technical architects in some of them where we're building on top of our customer platforms, things of that nature. We only host the top 500 strategic customers of Microsoft. And the deal size starts at about $40 million and then goes into the billions when you get into actually like sovereign cloud and working with government and then generative AI in general. So this is kind of our footprint, and we're really here to talk about Microsoft Experience Center 1, which is going to be the newest thing that will launch next year. I think for many of you, in 2017, Microsoft actually bulldozed the first original 12 buildings of its campus. So where Bill Gates actually founded it, and then went on to build 18 new structures in its place. As everyone, we were affected by a global pandemic. After the global pandemic, so all construction was put on hold. After the global pandemic, obviously everyone's heard tech went through major layoffs. We at Microsoft laid off 100,000 people in 2023. In our leadership, I think Annie said it, we really had to balance like, how are you, what does the face look like when you're spending this amount of money and a center when people are losing their jobs and, the economy's essentially gone to shit. But really, we engaged Hyperquake early on, and there's been a few starts and stops, but they've been a strong partner with us along the way. And we really went to them and said, hey, we think of it not only as a building, we think of the building as an experience. And we want our customers who, like I said, are the C-suite, the business decision makers, heads of state will eventually, have meetings in this building. And how are we just surprising and delighting them from the minute that they walk through the door to the minute that they get their food. We have an entire culinary team that looks after, the meals while they're on campus. Just to understanding the sustainability of the building, and we actually have beehives that we're relocating onto the roof of the building that are actually being monitored by IoT sensors to understand the health of the bee colonies that are around campus, or the geothermal wells that we actually built to power and warm the water and things of that nature on the new campus. So there's just a lot of goodness here. I will say the other nice thing is we were able to claim Experience Center 1. There were a lot of, we currently sit in building 33. There are 125 buildings on our main campus in Redmond, so you can imagine that getting building 1, we had to fight for it, but we were essentially able to do that. So it's been kind of a journey and a nice ride.
Yeah, it's been fascinating to watch Microsoft post-pandemic and their commitment to this in-person experience at headquarters. Obviously, part of this major expansion that's happened, and seeing support at the highest levels of the organization buying into experiential as a tool to drive business and lasting loyalty with the brand. This is the project of my career, safe to say, and I think, Eric, you might agree. There's such an exciting opportunity.
Yeah, at dinner last night, we were talking, I had a choice to take this role on, and, this will be a building that will last for 40 years at Microsoft. So it's one of those honors that they've entrusted me with. And, really kind of speaking to the Pacific Northwest, kind of understanding the ecosystem that is this building. We're really excited, with Hyperquake's help to kind of bring it to life.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about story and how Microsoft, how it's part of the kind of fabric of your culture at Microsoft.
Yeah, definitely. I go to dinner parties and people ask me what I do, and I'm like, well, I bring cloud infrastructure to life in a physical sense. And they're like, what does that mean? But essentially, when I talk to this team, we try and achieve 3 things, right? I always say that we'll fail if we don't get customers to touch, lick, feel, smell the technology. I can talk about cloud infrastructure all day long and lose people. But it's when we get CEOs of a company being a frontline worker, we actually put them in one of our facilities in a picking station, like they're picking an order. But it's all underpinned by cloud technology, but it sparks and it lights up. And then we try and show it across an industry lens, right? I cover all 12 of our industries: sustainability, energy, manufacturing, healthcare, CPG, retail, and many more. And it's like you have to, we call it the art of the possible, right? Like, we aren't trying to sell you the one solution. And actually at Microsoft, we're not trying to tell the story through ours. Like, we are best when people get to see it through our customers' eyes, what we're doing with Mercedes-Benz, what we're doing with BMW, what we're doing with Heineken. And it's just amazing. So that's one thing. I think the other thing is, you as brand storytellers, you have to build brand love and innovation and trust. And, moments like last Friday are the hardest days to go into work because we're standing in front of these customers. For many of you who hadn't heard it, there was a cyber security, I believe the hacker was either out of China or Russia, called Midnight Blizzard. And they actually hacked into Microsoft Network, and they got into Satya Nadella's emails. Like, we had to eat a lot of humble pie in front of customers who are saying, you're trying to sell us your technology solutions, yet your own house isn't in order. And then right shortly after that, the CSRB report came out from the United States government, essentially saying we weren't a security company. So we've now launched into like SFI, which is our Security Future Initiative, where we are taking security across all things. Speed to market, nope, it's security first. Telling stories in a way, ensure that security is embedded in it, and that we hold true to it. So I think those are a couple things, like build brand trust, innovation, and then really getting people to touch and feel the technology.
Yeah, we found it's so effective for these audiences, with the extremely limited attention spans and so much on their plate as far as responsibility. The tactics really boil down to similar to how we would approach a children's museum, helping to make extremely complex ideas around AI, cloud, et cetera, digestible for a person who has no experience or expertise in those fields, and really understand the value of these products and solutions that they're bringing to market.
Yeah, and I'll say one thing. Like, coming out of the pandemic, everyone realized that they hadn't migrated to the cloud, and companies struggled. And now people, obviously you've all heard it, AI is the buzzword, but people don't understand that you still need to be on the cloud to run AI. And don't get me wrong, it is a very expensive technology to run. And for us, for instance, the power that AI consumes and that we're trying to offset in our emissions and our sustainability movement is truly profound. This year, we'll spend $40 billion on data centers around the world at key countries to bring AI to market. The United States government, to put it in perspective, is only building $12 billion worth of data centers. But really, it's us, and we see it as technology as something that's precious, and how are we getting it out to the world in a very trustworthy way, and how are we enabling countries and third world countries and students in all walks of life to empower themselves as part of our mission statement.
Eric, if you had to take a guess in terms of the content play in EC1, how much of that content is going to be dedicated to sharing current customer and future customer experiences and the impact AI has on their business?
Yeah, almost all of it. We'll look globally. We're a globally relevant company. If we look to the Americas and just told stories about that, we would lose. We look at industry. That's how our customers are designed, right? PG&E is an energy partner, so we need to ensure that we have an industry lens on it. But we also will look at things like societal impact as something. What are we doing good for the world? But we're very careful in these stories. I sit on a lot of teams and we talk about like, how do we showcase accessibility in the center? How are we showcasing our sustainability mission? But it's a very thin line because it can go wrong very, very quickly. So we're very careful at, crafting those stories, making sure they're relevant. But I think the other thing that we've talked about when we look at, calendaring and just the core production fundamentals of it, AI is moving at such a fast pace, we can't keep up with it. And our speed to market, every time we launch something, GPT is coming out with another version. So we're already behind. So, it gives us heartburn because some of the things, while we'll open the building in fall, I've been talking to their teams that we won't even start sourcing the content for a 161,000 square foot building until February. And they're just like, okay, that gives us like 4 months. So we'll, we're gonna work together and figure it out. But it's a conundrum, and we're all trying to just figure it out.
Yes, we are. Strategists love that, as you can imagine. 2 years left to go, but none of the content we can even start to think about because it's moving too fast.
But this is our how. This makes everything come to life, Marshall,
Exactly.
right behind us on screen.
Exactly.
It's super easy for you all to pull off.
It's perfect. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so with such an honor and the daunting task of trying to bring this portfolio at Microsoft to life, their commitment to sustainability, diversity, et cetera, all the great messages that they have to share, we needed a framework that we can build within so that we're not just designing for the sake of design. It is kind of the tendency for these headquarters spaces to become the crown jewel of the real estate portfolio, this physical manifestation of the brand, which we all love, but having a why behind it is critical, obviously. What are we actually trying to inspire these audiences to do rather than just be impressed with the amount of money that you've put into one of these spaces? So this is our experience framework, the human communication model, as we call it, that is rooted in some level of neuroscience, which I'm way not smart enough to tell you that part.
Dr. Paul Zak could probably tell us.
Yeah, I hope so. But this is borrowed from some of our founding in the themed entertainment space. So being a Cincinnati headquartered agency, Cincinnati happens to be a capital for themed entertainment design. So giving ourselves this model in which we're laying out the experience in physical space, the customer journey, if you will, in real life, starting with moments of attraction. We think about this from a theme park perspective. We all are at least familiar with the idea of Disney World. You can imagine that moment of arrival, seeing the Magic Castle for the first time upon pulling into the station on the monorail or pulling into the parking lot. You know that you've arrived and you're in a special, magical place. And then having moments that build trust along the way. And immediately, as you start that journey, we find is so critical. This is where our guys, the used car salesmen, get such a bad rap. They try to deliver critical information before establishing rapport. And so having these moments where we're embracing the audience and really starting to create that sense of belief in the brand and people actually caring. Before, of course, trying to deliver that critical information, which in the theme park world is hands and feet in the vehicle at all times. They don't tell you that when you park your car because it's not going to land with you. So critical information when it matters, but more importantly, having these emotional moments throughout the journey, these moments where you stop thinking and start feeling something is really the only element of that whole experience that you're actually going to take with you. Are those emotional responses. So really honing in on those, and finally inspiring these moments of action as a result of the experience. in these spaces that we help to develop, there's many different missions. Sometimes it's accelerating the deal. We want it to close faster, or maybe with existing customers, we want to expand the opportunity, we uncover cross-sell opportunities with existing clients. Or maybe it's purely an internal play. We want to attract and retain the best talent. So according to what it is that we're trying to do, we'll align to those goals. But as I was saying, this gives us that tool in which we can use.
Yeah, and one of the questions that came from the front row here was ROI. The important part of this is there are so many key factors. There are contacts, influencers, and decision makers through the process. And everyone that touches this work, there's a piece of them that shows up in the experience. That is extremely critical, because when you talk about ROI, it's not just about, closing the deal size as much as it is the stakeholders, the contacts, the influencers, seeing their thought leadership show up in the space. And that's a critical part of this entire journey.
Yeah, it's one of the best parts of this whole experience for myself and the team is being able to sit down with executives and decision makers from these brands and really understand what makes them show up day after day and learn directly from them and have that influence show up in the work. It's a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I think this is a good example of how we compartmentalize the building, because we have, as Colin said, various stakeholders who cared about certain areas, and we really had to find a way to digestibly feed them what we wanted to get out of them. I always laugh at Microsoft, because when Colin comes to me and says, I have this thing, and I'm always like, well, this is how it's going to go. We're going to get into a room with about 100 senators, mostly CVPs and VPs of Microsoft. It'll be a congressional hearing. There's going to be a lot of banter. We'll come back and forth, and then ultimately at the end of the day, we'll see what comes out of it. But their framework really helped us and our leaders. It helped bring them along. So.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit about what we're thinking about. Obviously, Microsoft is pushing the envelope as far as experiential design. We've seen their commitment to this global footprint of centers. Obviously, it's working for them. So how can we collaboratively do something new and different? Obviously, this is keeping us up at night. So if you've spent any time in Silicon Valley, you'll know that these centers are not new anymore. They go by many names, but these executive briefing environments, as I know them, are a tool in an arms race. As you can imagine, if you're flying into San Jose or Seattle to visit with Microsoft, you're probably going to go see Meta and Amazon and all the other competitors and peers that are in your space. So you've got to show up in a way that really resonates with people and they actually remember, because they're going to spend their next day with somebody different. So how are we doing something that's actually going to stand out? And what we really believe is that new is no longer enough. There was a while where Salesforce Tower in San Francisco is going up. Just having the biggest screen was kind of the name of the game for a few years through the 2010s. DirectView LED was coming to market in a really exciting and fun way. And so, unfortunately, that's not going to cut it anymore. We've become desensitized to these massive canvases, and we've got to find other ways to activate the space. So our team is really focusing in on a few key areas. Obviously, we want to use Microsoft's and our clients' tools as part of how we bring these experiences to life. So tools like generative AI to truly personalize moments throughout the journey. How do we make the building responsive to who you are and what you actually care about, whether that's the products that you're consuming or the industry that you represent or the region that you're coming from. How do we curate these moments to make them most impactful for who's ever in the space that day? Also, integrating our own personal devices into those interactions when we have these supercomputers in our pockets. So using those as a way to augment, to provide this digital layer of the experience in a way that gives the control back to the users, to the visitors of the space. We found it as a really effective tool for doing that. And then finally, having the space be truly reactive to how people are living and spending time within it, making the individuals themselves generators of new content in the space. Incredible new technology with sensors, et cetera, coming to market, which allows us to be aware of what's going on in the space in a way that can remain anonymized. Obviously, security is such an important topic for brands like Microsoft. So how do we make it respond to individuals without creeping them out is, of course, an important part of this. But yeah, we find that these are some of the ways that our clients and audiences are getting most excited about, and we're continuing to push and explore. Yeah.
And the only thing I'd say to that is, at Microsoft, we believe privacy is a human right. And, that's that fine line that we've been balancing, because we don't want it to feel creepy. We don't want it to come up and say, hello, Eric, welcome. We're glad you're here from Shell Oil.
But you could.
Yeah, we could, but that gets a little invasive, and so we really are trying to find that balance of having the building react and be the living ecosystem with our customers, while allowing them for their anonymity and in what they're trying to do, as partners of Microsoft.
That's all the content we've got.
It's all the slides.
I think so.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Exaggeration. Any questions? Yes.
So, Hyperquake, I didn't actually understand. Do you only do spaces for corporations like Microsoft that are these experience centers, or do you do other things?
No, we have, Hyperquake has 3 primary functions. One is story building, digital marketing, and traditional branding. And then we actually have a startup studio in Portland that we own. We have a content studio in Brooklyn that we own as well. So we're pretty broad, pretty broad.
But in terms of because I think I'm here with a brand, and making experiences, I think it's an interesting portal, especially if we're talking about where to place all this content we make, besides YouTube and
Yeah.
Correct.
other places. What have you done so far in your experience where you've created interesting places for content to go? Can you just give us a use case?
Well, we could talk Duracell. We could go for it.
Sure. I mean, this is personally as part of the experiential practice, so that I lead that into the business. This is all I do, and we have a team of 20 people that are focused on bringing
Just that.
Mostly brands to life in physical space. This is really where, in a somewhat noisy world of experiential, when you have temporary events and whatnot, we've really honed in on permanent branded spaces as being where we are best known and really focus our efforts.
But temporary and
Yeah.
semi-permanent, that's our origin. Started with Procter & Gamble, doing temporary learning experiences that would be up for anywhere from 90 days to a year to bring customers and or leaders through that physical immersion process.
But you can imagine the sorts of brand stories that are being produced by teams that we're with here today this is exactly the sort of venue where those would end up. A 5-minute anthem to set the stage for the day ahead. An immersive theater is almost table stakes for a project like this. That's always part of the deal.
Nothing else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, y'all.